Mel, thank you so much for joining me on the Next Level Life podcast today. I'm so excited to have you here.
Oh my God, so blessed to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's such a joy because after connecting with you at the dinner series, but I followed you for quite a long time after seeing you present at during a mastermind that I was a part of. I was so drawn to your passion and the way that you simplify things when it comes to money. So when I reached out to you to come on the podcast, I was so excited that you decided to join me here because I know everything that you're going to share today is going to be super valuable for my audience and anyone that comes across your work. So to get started, I don't want to go down the whole avenue. I'm going to do a full breakdown of all the things that you've done in your career, but I would just love to start with, can you share with us what's been one of the biggest catalysts that's impacted you in the way that you are so passionate about sharing financial freedom and the way that you talk about money?
There's probably two situations that happened in my life that that taught me the importance of it. Because the importance of the money, what I realized was not only did it teach me the importance of financial freedom, is that it taught me the importance of the money not for money's sake. It actually taught me the importance of the money for life's sake, for what it was. And the first one I think was back. Is going back a ways. I was a single full-time dad, taking care of my son, raising my son. He was 5.5 years old when he came to live with me, and I was an entrepreneur. And I did what entrepreneurs do. You get on the treadmill and you start running, and you put your head down and you're making money and you're trying to get clients, and you do what you're supposed to do. And I think that I'm doing well. And then one day Jeremy comes running in. He says, Daddy, I drew a picture of you at school today. And here I'm thinking, I'm going to kneel down. I'm going to get this picture from my son, who's 6 years old at the time, and say, and it's going to be us playing ball or at Disneyland or something. No, it was a picture of me standing in front of two computer screens with a phone in each ear and the one on the desk ringing. And so like this 6-year-old boy put a mirror into my soul to show me and say to me, hey, Dad, I'm the real gift in life. And he was. And I was botching, I was screwing it up. I wasn't doing the right thing. And the challenge at that time, especially for an entrepreneur, is the ease in which we could look at it and say, but I got to do this, kid. I got to do this to put the roof over our heads, to do the fun things, to do that. We need the profits. I need to generate the profits. And the thing is that if a 6-year-old could understand what profits were, what that picture said to me was that, hey, Dad, I don't need your profits. I just need your presence.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to explore and say, there has to be a different way to do business. There has to be a different way to do money, because I knew that as long as my ability to earn was tied to my efforts to earn it, I would be imprisoned for the rest of my life by the pursuit of money, so I could take care of the things that I was going to take care of, but I wasn't taking care of the things that I should have been taking care of.
Mm.
And so that's what shifted, this obsession to say there's got to be a way, there's got to be a way. And that's what gave birth to the concept of a money machine and the two journeys that we can talk about. But the importance of what came out of that came to light in 2019, because in 2019 my life was good. My son has grown, he's doing well, and everything. I'm flying around speaking and doing the things, living on the beach with my beautiful wife, and next thing you know, I'm in a hospital bed with a doctor looking at me and saying, hey, we found a 5 centimeter tumor in your bladder, and you have cancer, and we might have to take the prostate out because of where it's at. We might have to put a bag and a tube in for the kidney, and if it's bad, you're going to lose your bladder. And let's face it, it's cancer, so life's on the line. So now all of a sudden I got turned upside down, and this perfect life that I was living got thrown back at me. But the building of the money machine, the thing that came out of that drawing that my son did, allowed me the opportunity to shut my businesses down, to stop doing what I was doing, to give me the freedom of choice. And that's what true financial freedoms, to choose and to say, you know what, shut it down. We can continue to live without me on the treadmill, working, doing whatever I'm doing. Now it's time for a fight. And because I don't know how people do it, to work during the day to make a living and then have to fight for their life during the night. I don't know. There's no way I could have done it the way I did. And so these, both of those, I think were huge moments in my life that shined the light on the importance of, and we can call it financial freedom, but let's just back it down a little bit and say, to be in control of our own financial destiny, to be able to control our money and not be beholden to it. I think that's the key, because 2019 was my cancer, 2020 was the pandemic, and a lot of people struggled financially.
Mm.
And I don't think we needed to, if we
Yeah.
did it right.
100% agree with you. And I feel like it's one of those things that that financial freedom term can get thrown around in so many different ways. But I just love how that you really drilled it down to, you know what, it's actually only working if it's giving you that space, that freedom to be able to do the things that are important to you, and also to be able to step away from your business, because you can have a business that's giving you cash flow, but it's not necessarily giving you actual freedom in your life.
No, I think that we would be better served to measure our wealth in time and not dollars. And to sit back and say, how how many of the moments in each and every day do I have agency over? Do I have choice over that I can control? Because I can have hundreds of $1 million in the bank account and live a very bankrupt life. And I don't want to do that. I just don't want to do that.
Mm.
And I see it with a lot of people that I've been in kind of contact with or consulted with to try and change that and advised. And life is about living it richly, not from a stuff standpoint, but from an experience standpoint. And if we're going to do that, then we got to have choice. We got to have the ability to have options and know that we're living intentionally every day. And we can, I mean, call a spade a spade. We're not going to do it right from the day one, and we're probably not going to do it every minute of the day. But the more we can feel that we are at choice, because we have options, because we did the money side of our world right, the richer we feel, the more at ease we feel.
And I think as well, like the more that we address our money and our attachment to money and our relationship with money, it changes how we feel on an everyday basis. Because a lot of people, it causes so much stress and overwhelm in their lives. But when we drill it down, and I'd love for you to talk more about like the concept of building a money machine, that it's giving you that freedom, but it's also doing the money work. Like it's looking at your money stories, it's exploring like how money impacts you on an everyday basis. And it's considering like how it's serving the not just your life, but your legacy and what you're leaving for
Yeah.
everyone else, right?
I love that you put the word relationship in there, because it truly is. So I'm an accountant by training. So when I first started talking about this, I thought, well, I'm just going to go out there. I'm going to give everyone the math behind wealth. I'm going to give them the formulas, the calculations, and all that stuff. And I quickly figured out that unless I did something about the stuff in their heart and in their mind, I couldn't deal with the things in their pocketbook.
So
And that's when you start to look at it, because I even think about my own journey. And one of the very first money memories that I have was at about the same age as my son drawing that picture, was about 5-6 years old. It was the first time I ever saw my dad cry. And it had to do with money. Now, my dad was this hero to me. He was an immigrant he escaped persecution in a country and came here at 17 with nothing, to go to school, to get a degree. He became an engineer. I just remember him and my mom having a heated discussion. I don't know the topic. I don't know the specifics, but the topic was money. And my dad saying, hey, we can't do that right now. And then all of a sudden I see my dad cry and say, I feel like I'm letting the people I love the most down.
mm,
And so it seems like this. innocent thing that this child is going to see. But what I took it to mean, and this is where we get in trouble, is I said, oh, if you don't make enough money, you're going to disappoint the people you love. And so I got focused on, how do you make money? How do you build? How do you just earn? And then Jeremy draws that picture of me, and here I am going, oh, I'm making the money, and I'm still disappointing the people I love.
Mm.
And the idea is that those interpretations of what we do with money, because we're told, don't talk about money. I grew up in a household that's like, don't talk about money, it's impolite. You also use the word stress. And there's an American study, American Psychological Association said 72% of people say that they're stressed about money. 22% say they're extremely stressed about money.
Whoa.
Yo, if we've got a quarter of the population that's extremely stressed, 3/4 that are stressed, but they tell us not to talk about it, how do we fix it? We have to have these conversations and have real conversations to remove interpretations like I had that hold you back. So now you become the controller of the money and it doesn't control you any longer.
Mm.
And that's, it's just, I know that, like, with my son, I started talking with him about money at 10, 11 years old. But, a lot of parents go, I don't want to do that. I said, well, why? When he first started, I said, there's 4 buckets you're going to do. You're going to do giving, you're going to do saving, you're going to investing and living. But those 4 buckets gave me the opportunity to instill values around money. And why generosity? Why do you give? Why charity? And let him make choice. Why savings? What is, not using the same term, but liquidity? But he gets a flat tire on his bike and now he has money to be able to take care. He starts to understand that even at 10, 11 years old. And I think that there's this fear that we shouldn't be talking about it. But if we don't talk about it, we don't control the conversation. So where are they going to get it? TikTok, Instagram, media, social media, their friends. And I don't trust that.
So true. And the thing is too, like, even if you don't talk about it, they're still absorbing the the relationship that you have with money and the way that you relate to it, the conversations that you're having, and their brain is literally trying to create context around it without information. So if you're not educating them on it, they're still absorbing your money stories. They're still absorbing your stress around money. So even if you think you're not involving them in it, you're absolutely involving them in it. Like the amount of clients I work with that still have stories around money because it was like what was not talked about and how it was created, like either stress or it created overwhelm, or it created a concept of like it's not okay to talk about money, or it's not one of those things that's too taboo, or it's there's so many stories that happen just from the child's brain trying to go, what meaning is that? Like, how do I place meaning on that? And so even if you think you're not doing it, you are impacting them in a way. So take control of it and actually have the conversation. I love that.
Without a doubt. And to let some people off the hook, I've worked with people just starting out to billionaires. Just so we're clear, every single one of them, even the billionaires, have stories around money.
100%.
It doesn't stop. The stories change. Your ability to control it changes. Your ability to understand it changes. But they're there. That's just part of it.
Is there any money stories that you've identified, say, in like the last 10 years that is something that you're still working through?
I think that for me, the one that I used to have is that making money was hard, and it's not.
Yeah. It's a common one.
What's hard, what I shouldn't say it's hard. What people find difficult is owning the value that they provide, their own value. Because once you own that value, making the money from that value is easier because you have conviction around it. There's so many people that they come into it and they're trying to either negotiate a salary, or they're meeting with a new potential client and they're about to talk about pricing, and they hem and haw and they hesitate. And the reason we're hesitating is we haven't owned our own value. We
Mm.
don't we don't believe in our own value. We don't, and so we come at it from a place of convincing instead of conviction. And we believe that it's on us to convince them that we are valuable. It's not. It's on us to inform them, stand in the conviction, and say, here's what it is to work with me.
Mm.
Here's what the ROI is, and all that, and stand in that. It's on them to make the decision. And the only responsibility that we have is to make sure that they have all the information to make the right choice and that all their questions are answered.
Yeah.
And I want, no matter who they are, I want them in one of two places: the red light or the green light. I don't want them in the yellow light. The
Yeah.
yellow light is a place of hesitation. It's the most dangerous light, at least in the US, in the intersection, because people are going through it. You're not sure what they're doing. That's what gets us hurt. So I just want you either, pardon this, but a hell yes or a hell no.
Yeah.
And the way you get there is stand in the conviction, inform them, give it to them. Some will, some won't. You move on.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And it's one of those things that people buy based on certainty through that conviction. They don't buy, from confusion, right? And I
Yeah.
think one of the things that I think I heard from you there is like considering how the business actually solves a problem for someone and then it is actually adding value from your offer. And it's not your self-worth connected to your business. You need to dedicate or separate that from your self-worth. But I also love how you're talking about this when it comes to building your money machine, right? Because
Yeah.
your business is this entity that actually solves a problem and adds value and it's got value. And so rather than looking at it like, oh, it's my business, it's my baby, or considering like it's my money, how do you think about business and then in relation to how it then helps you build your money machine? Because your business is also not your money machine. Would you say that to be true?
Right. Yeah, oh, absolutely. That's actually one of the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make is they see their business as their wealth. It isn't. Now, is there possibility that you can create wealth or have wealth as part of your business part of the wealth? Yes. If you're building something that you might be able to sell down the road, that type of thing. But by and large, and I've been involved in a lot of deals and a lot of transactions, a lot of them fall apart. So what I don't want to do is bet your whole financial future on, I'm going to build this business, I'm going to sell it for millions and millions of dollars, and then I'm set. Because what happens if you can't?
Mm.
I want to bet on probabilities. So and it's probabilities and redundancy. I want to make sure that I have as high a probability of financial success as possible, and that means I'm not going to just bet on one thing, the business. But I will say this: your business is the fuel to create the money machine. See, the challenge with a business for most is that there's what I call five incomes, and I talk about it in my book. Is the idea of five incomes. Remember I said the key is to separate your ability to earn from your efforts to earn it. Until you separate it, you have no freedom. You are living based upon the demands of your clients in the business and not based upon choice. And that's fine. But like I had someone, they posted, because I did a video on your ultimate purchase in life is your freedom. And they said, well, if everyone's free, no one would work. Not true.
Not true.
I'm free and I'm choosing to work. I do the things I love to do. So I think that's the gift in it. So what I think we need to understand is that the business is going to provide cash flow. The business is there to provide a solution to a marketplace that you get paid for. That isn't wealth. But we've been trained to focus so much on earning, make money, go get a good job, go build a good business, make money. And we think that that's the solution. But there's plenty of people that made a lot of money and they have no wealth. They have no freedom. So what's the solution? The solution is that at the bottom rungs of the five incomes is what I call active income and business income. Active income is one-to-one. It's your solopreneurship. It is you are trading 1 hour for one compensation for an hour. Worst business model, but we all start there.
Yeah.
Okay. The next level up is what I call business income. Now we start to bring team in and we start to get some of our time back. And it gives us time to do some other things. And what I'm talking about here, and some people will confuse it with, oh, you're talking about passive income. I'm not. You used a term earlier, relationship. Okay. I've been married this Wednesday. I will have been married 13 years. And one thing I know for certain, if I took a passive approach to my marriage, I wouldn't have been married 13 minutes. Okay.
So true.
So, and yet that's what we might be doing with our money, is because I just want it to just spit out money for me. And it's a great fairy tale, but it's not true, because that doesn't mean that you're in it every day. So I look at it and say, how do we get leveraged income? In other words, I don't have to put in 1 unit of effort to get 1 unit of compensation. I put in 1 unit of effort and I get 100 units of compensation. Leverage. So what you do is, and this is where your money machine gets built. I'm using the bottom two just like everyone else. I have my one-on-one clients. I'm speaking around and I get paid. I have a business also. So those bottom two rungs, they're generating income for me. And I'm doing that, but I'm doing it by choice. The top three, though, the last three of the 5 incomes, is what builds the money machine. So the next rung up that is leveraged is what we call asset-based income. That means that I'm buying a property, or I'm buying a piece of equipment that I can then rent or get paid for use. So there's an investment of time and money up front, but the ongoing investment of time and money is far less compared to what you get out of it. So that's one step up. The next step up is residual income. And residual income is created once and get paid repeatedly. My books, some of my courses. This is what singers and songwriters and authors and creatives and actors, they get paid residuals. They do the work once and they get paid over and over again. If you're in a network marketing environment or direct sales, you take the time to build your downline, and now you get residuals over time. But the effort, there's a lot of effort up front, but the ongoing effort declines, and now you have leverage. And the third, and then the top level is what we call portfolio. This is shares, this is stocks, it's paper assets, it's investment, the typical investments, bonds, stock, ETFs, index funds, those kinds of things. And it's the combination of those three that's going to give you the freedom. It's the combination of those three that allowed me to build a money machine to say, hey, that money machine's allows us to live. It supports our whole lifestyle if I want it to.
Yeah.
Right now, we don't need it because I'm back working and doing my thing. So the bottom two are doing just fine. So what we want to do is use the business, the income from the business, to start building asset-based, residual-based, or portfolio assets that will support us down the road. That's the place where we start to transition from living a life that's based on demands to living a life that is a life of choice. That's the kind of the nuts and bolts of what you're doing.
Love it. And I think like there's elements there where I love that you explained that in so much depth. There's elements there of like there might be time investment before it's money investment, but it's also considering like what your income is within your business and how you're utilizing your money. So I love how you use the term like your money are your employees. Can you talk to us more about what that means?
Well, so the other mistake that that I see people making, and when I say people making, I made them. Most of everything I talk about is you know, I'm guilty, but I figured it out. And that is this, is that when we are, say you're entrepreneurs, you're going to hire 10 people, and you bring 10 people into this conference room, you hire them, and you have a conversation, and you say, hey, welcome to your first day. I love that you're here. You're going to notice that we do something different here at our organization, and that is this. None of you have job titles. None of you have job descriptions. I'm not giving you goals. I'm not giving you roles. I'm not giving you tasks. But I want to double the business in the next 12 months. So let's go do it. It's like,
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck. But that's exactly what we're doing with our money. See, our money comes into our life, and then it goes into the account, and then we decide what to do with it. We didn't have the roles. But in order to hire the right person, we set up the roles, the goals, the job description, the title, before we even put the ad in, before we ever go there. It's the same thing with our money. Every dollar that comes into your life has to have a job description, has to know that this dollar is for the mortgage, or for rent, or for clothes, or for food, or for staffing or team. Every dollar has to have a job description. And here's the powerful thing. Before the dollar is ever earned, we need to know beforehand, because if it's done beforehand, now some people will say, oh, you mean a budget? No, I mean a plan.
Yeah.
I mean a plan that gives you the permission to spend with the vision for your life, that you get a chance to do it, because otherwise the money comes in and temptation takes over. Emotions come in and you go, well, the money, look, it's in my account. You know, and now there's a reason I have a $900 coffee maker in my kitchen. And it's because I was on Instagram one day. I said, that is cool. And I bought it. Like, my wife's going, what? I go, I can order coffee from an app while I'm sitting in my office. And that's temptation at work. Like I said, I'm not exempt. The challenge is, and it's okay to do it as long as you don't live that way and you don't go into debt because you're living that way. The tendency is that we allow temptation to drive all of our things, or emotion to drive all of our decisions. And when emotions come into money decisions, our financial intellect goes out the window. Okay. And so it's important for us to strip away as much emotional energy around money as possible so we can logically do it. One of the ways to do it is decide what you're doing with the money in advance.
Yeah.
And work from it. Now, goes back to something else that we talked about, and the stories and shame and guilt. If we don't have a plan, and we happen to go out with some of our friends or mates, and we go out on the town, and we end up spending like $200. We didn't have a plan. We come back and we put it on a credit card, and all of a sudden the guilt starts to eat at us. And we're going, wow, I probably shouldn't have spent that. And so all of a sudden, you're starting to get those stories and the guilt coming in again. But if I built it into the plan, and I already said, hey, I've got $200 this month to spend to go out with my friends, and now you go and you spend $200 or $190, whatever it is, you walk away and go, it's part of the plan. I'm good.
It feels
and
good.
There's no guilt. There's no shame.
I love it, because I remember reading that book, Happy Money. It's the way I like to look at it too. It's like, it's happy money. I get to make the money and spend it in places that make me feel happy. And it's not coming from a place of like, oh, I have to budget, I have to scrimp, I have to scrape. And I love the other concept that you shared around that, around like, most accountants look at things of like, well, what's left over is ours. Well, actually, you're going, no, be proactive and go, what's the goal with my money? What's my purpose with each one? So what I would love to do, if it's okay with you, I'd love to give you like 3 different scenarios with different stages of growth for business owners. And I'd love, when it comes to like building wealth, you could give us your advice of like what you think that they should focus on with that stage of growth. Is that cool?
Cool.
Amazing. So let's say we have an entrepreneur that has, got into a little bit of debt. Maybe it's literally that example that you said, that has bought some stuff on Instagram, done all those types of things, got themselves into a little bit of debt, and is literally kind of like getting by. So they're not necessarily setting money aside for their goals or anything like that. And they're in a state where they're like, money is stressful, but I want to start building a little bit more freedom. I want to start building a little bit of more of a safety and stability. What would your next steps be for them?
So I think the first step when someone's in debt is, I want to know, is this debt that they've carried, it's past debt, or are they going, in other words, or are they going into debt further each and every month? In other words, they're living beyond their means. So if they're digging a hole, I want to know, are they still digging? If they're still digging that hole, we have to stop first. And that's going to take some very critical decisions. And the first and the easiest place to go is we're going to look at the expenses. What's going out the door? And for entrepreneurs, there should be every dollar that goes out the door for your business especially should have a return on investment. And you should know it in advance. Now, let me be clear. That return on investment may not be always in money or profits. The return on investment might be in efficiency, effectiveness, or productivity. Okay. So you might get some time back that you may say, I'm going to hire someone because it's going to give me 20 hours a month back. And I can use that 20 hours to go and get more business. So great. You hire someone. And now your metric is, did I go use the 20 hours to go hire more, get more business? Or did I go and spend it watching things on Netflix or go surfing or whatever it is?
Or just doing ad, like,
Yeah, just doing admin, or you filled it with something else. Because then we're not intentional with it. So I would get critical with the money going out first and say, which ones am I getting a return on investment? Is it currency? Is it, effectiveness, productivity? What is it? And how am I measuring it? There will be things in there that you sit back and say, I don't think I am, and I don't think I need it. And you start cutting. Okay. Now, I don't believe that you will cut your way to richness. You cannot use deprivation as the path to a rich life. But you have to use discipline as a path to a rich life. So I want to make sure that we're on stable footing from an expense standpoint. Second, if I have debt, I want to know that I get you on a debt payment plan. So stop the bleeding, stop the digging. Now let's put a plan in place to get it paid off. Okay. That's gonna start us getting ahead of the game, because now we have a plan that we're following specifically to get the debt paid down. And you can use there's two primary methods: snowball or avalanche. Whether you're doing the highest interest first or the lowest balance first. One is a psychological winner. The other one is the mathematical winner. Okay, I don't care which one you choose. I care that you choose it and use it consistently until you're out of debt. So you got to get on a debt payment plan. Now, I also say I don't have a problem with using debt. I don't think all debt's the devil. All debt has two personality traits, though. All debt costs. It's called interest. Okay? All debt stresses. It stresses us financially, it stresses us psychologically. But there's two types of debt. There is destructive debt, and that is the debt that we are using for what we call consumables. It's stuff. It's momentary pleasures. It's a lifestyle that you want to live today that you can't afford. It's right now in the States, you can go to a car dealer and they'll give you 6, 7, 8 years to finance a car. No, it's a depreciating asset. Are you out of your mind? And so we have to be really, really smart about what we're putting on. Now, there's productive debt. I'm okay with productive debt. Productive debt is something that's going to increase your efficiency, your cash flow, and your net worth. Okay? So it might be, I'm going to put Facebook ads on a credit card, and I put $100 on Facebook ads, but I get $200 in sales back.
Yeah.
Okay? That's productive debt. Okay? Or I finance a piece of property. productive debt because it's increasing cash flows and net worth. So I'm okay with that. But what I need to do is first stop the digging, get expenses in hand, get a date payment plan in place. Now I start to look at the income coming in and say, what can I do here? Am I owning my value? Am I charging my worth? Am I collecting everything that's coming in? And am I spending my time in the highest profit, highest margin pursuits from a revenue standpoint? And now we start to get critical. That's probably the first couple of things I would do with them.
Yeah. Love it. So in depth, so good. Okay, next step would be like the entrepreneur that's actually doing pretty well. They possibly are earning a little bit more than what they're actually spending. So they're just, pretty much going month to month, but they probably only have about a 3 to 6 month runway of income. What would you say the next steps would be?
At that stage, one of the things that I would start doing is that you need to start building your money machine. Building wealth is far more driven by behaviors and decisions than is ever driven by money. As much as people say that it's a money thing, it's not. We had a study here of 10,000 millionaires, and 79% of them were what we call first generation millionaires, meaning that they created it in their lifetime. It wasn't inherited, it wasn't gifted, they didn't win it in the lottery. They created it. 8 out of 10. That's pretty good odds for us.
Yeah.
Okay. 31% of those never made much more than $100,000 a year. So it wasn't how much they made that made them millionaires. It's what they did with what they made that made them millionaires. The behaviors, the choices, the decisions, the habits that are driving it. And so what I would look at if someone is looking at it and say, hey, what are your behaviors around money? And one of those behaviors is to make sure that investing and building wealth is actually a priority. It's most of the time an afterthought. I have some money left over, so I'm going to put it towards my future. That means that I'm building my future on the scraps. Mm-hmm. That's not a really good future. And so what I want to do is I want to say, I'm going to make investing the priority. And then I look at what's left and say, that's what's going to allow me to fund my life today. Now, I might not like that. That's okay. Then we go back to the drawing board on the income and say, how do I raise it so I can have my good life today and that? But it's too easy to kick the can down the road to say, well, I'll just put what's left over towards the future, live my life today, but the future's coming. And if we're not prepared for it, we don't have a whole lot of alternatives. There isn't going to be a whole lot of government assistance. You're going to end up on your kid's couch somewhere, and that doesn't sound appealing. And so do we sacrifice some things today so I can build the freer tomorrow? Now, that doesn't mean, and this is an important thing for people to think about. I said, I don't want deprivation. We need to be smart and disciplined about how we do it. But what I don't believe that if you do not enjoy the path to financial freedom, you'll never enjoy the destination of financial freedom. And there are those commentators in this space that will tell you, oh, you're gonna live on macaroni and cheese until and I go, what kind of life is that? Okay. Bread and water. I mean, it's like, so what I tell my clients, I said, here's what I want you to do. Find 1 to 3 really deep, sustainable joy points of your life. The things that you really love to do that when you do it, like with my wife and I, we love to travel together and we travel nice. And so that's at the top of the list. And we make sure that when we're doing the plan we talked about before, that's built in. I'm not talking about momentary pleasures. I'm not talking about the coffee machine that I have. I'm not talking about the big screen TV or the spontaneous purchases that in a day or 2 days, the effects of it are gone, but the expense of it or the debt from it are still with you. So if I can, during this journey, fund the deep, visceral joys of my life, at least a couple of them, then at least there's this joy that keeps me going as I'm trying to build something. I don't feel like I'm living on bread and water.
Yeah. I love that. So good. I absolutely agree with you. I feel like it's one of those things that if you're always depriving yourself, you're always then creating that need to want more. And then it just ends up
Yeah.
causing more emotional buys. Yeah.
Yes.
Never good.
Yes.
Never good. Okay, last one. So let's say that they're actually doing quite well in business and they've got more money than they're actually comfortable with. Let's say that they know how to sell, they know they've created a really beautiful business model and the money is coming in. They might have a mortgage that they're paying off, but they're also like, I don't even know what to do with this excess money. Like, should I be investing it? Should I be building out that next phase of wealth? Like, should I be, taking it and putting it into more property? Like, what would you say would their next steps be?
So I have something that I talk about called the wealth priority ladder. And the wealth priority ladder basically tells you a hierarchy. It's the recipe of what you do with your money as it comes in. Um, and so the first, and I look at things, everything that I look at starts with safety first. I want to make sure that you have an unshakable foundation first, and then we worry about growth. Because if I don't have an unshakable foundation and all I'm doing is trying to hit a home run every single time, um, and something goes bad, I could lose it all, and I don't want that. So it's built in a specific way to give them that solid foundation, which means first I want to make sure you have enough liquidity and cash on hand to carry you for a period of time if you have a sustained issue like my health
Yeah.
or a pandemic or anything like that, or a downturn, you lose a big customer or a client or something. Because what we don't want to do is have that tip us into debt, and now we're borrowing just to survive. And so that if I'm generating enough income and I have enough profits, I want to make sure that we have that liquidity. Right now, I'd put it in a high yield savings account. You get in the US, you'll get 5.5%. But then you got to put the rest of the employees, the dollars to work for you. Otherwise you're not going to build the machine.
Mm.
Watch what happens. We can't save ourselves to wealth. If I take $5,000 a year and put it away in an S&P 500 index fund, you'll get about 8% long term based on historical returns. But let's say I did it for 40 years, age 25 to 65, and I just did $5,000 a year. So I put $200,000 total away. By the time I hit age 65, I would have over $1.5 million, okay, out of my 200. If I didn't do that and I just said, I'm just going to save it, I don't want to take risk, and you put it in a 2% savings account, the same $200,000, the same $5,000 a year, you would end up with only $314,000. You have to be on the field, not the sidelines or the stands, to win the game of wealth. And when I say get on the field, I want you on the field in a safe way. So my first stop for most people is ETFs, index funds, something that's diversified, that's liquid, and that gets you in the game, and you don't take on too much risk. And so for that person that's in that situation, what I would say is, let's start building the portfolio. Let's start building the foundation of assets that will allow you to move yourself or remove yourself from the requirement to work, and start there. Take those profits and start building something that isn't just driven by the business and your efforts. That's the first piece. I wouldn't start with property first, and remember I say safety first, and here's the reason I would wait on property if I'm just starting out. And I know that I'll get pushback with some people, but here's my rationale for it. And this is happened to a friend of mine. If I have $50,000 to go into a property and I take on a mortgage, I might get one property. So I buy a building and I put $50,000 into it, and I get a mortgage, and now I'm in it. And I want to do something with a roof. And the roof, the guy that comes in, the contractor that comes in, tells them there's asbestos in the roof, and this is a true story. Said tenant's got to leave, so now you've got a vacant building, not cash flowing like you thought. It's going to cost you $150,000 to fix it, and now you got to re-rent it. So my concern at the beginning to go in a property, if you have a bad tenant, can't rent it, a bad repair, and you don't have the liquid funds to carry it, you just destroyed it. You just destroyed your wealth building. So that's why I say, if I had the same 50,000, I can invest through an index fund in 500 to 3,000 companies. The likelihood that they all go to zero at the same time is slim. And if they do, we have different problems in the world, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's why I start where I'm at there, and then say, when we have a critical mass of base, now we can start to look at some of these other things that might carry a little more risk, but we do it smart, and we do it in a way that it doesn't jeopardize everything else that we did.
Yeah.
And so that's what I would do with it.
Yeah, much more sustainable way. I love that, because I heard you talking on a live recently and someone asked about certain investments and you were like, no, it's not sustainable. Like, let's focus on sustainability first so you can actually take a little bit more risk down the track. So I love that. Love that you shared that. Oh my goodness. So much goodness, Mel. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us today. I feel like there's probably like two little questions I want to ask. Well, they might not be little, but let's just see where they go. So, one of the things I heard you speak about recently is around, like, obviously you've had lots of different challenges within your business journey. One of them comes to mind with the Ponzi scheme that you experienced, where you lost a third of everything that you owned, which I'm sure was massive. But I heard you talk about learning to get bigger than the problem, and I feel like it feeds into what you spoke about just there. Like, I feel like there's an element there of, like, if anything that we just spoke about, like, was over the top of your head, where you literally like, I've got no idea what he's talking about, that's where the work first begins, right? Is actually learning and educating yourself in this space, getting Mel's book and making sure that you read it, multiple times to really understand the concepts and start putting it into action. And so I'd love for you to share with us, from that experience, there was something that you did that allowed you to get bigger than the problem, to turn things around in a really massive way. Would you mind sharing that story?
Yeah. So for me, I got into an investment in 2005 that I thought was an investment that turned out to be a Ponzi scheme. Between me and two friends, we lost over $4.5 million. I lost 1/3 of everything I owned.
Crazy.
Yeah, it wasn't my finest hour. But here's the thing. All the stories started to heat up again. You know, you're an idiot. You know, you shouldn't be doing this. Turn in your license. You know, you shouldn't advise other people. How could you do this? All the things, the guilt, because I was still, raising my son at that time. He was 14, 15 years old. So he's older, but still, he's, I'm still responsible for him, and I was struggling with it. And so someone looked at it and said, "Hey, your son is watching you.
Ooh.
And he's going to get a lesson from this. What do you want that lesson to be? Is the lesson, when things happen like this, do you curl up in the corner and hope the storm passes? Or do you stand up and fight?" And so I ended up sitting him down and saying, "Let me explain what's happened. It's not going to destroy us. It's painful. I'm going to pout. I'm going to be angry. But it's not going to destroy us." And the thing that I found in that conversation was this, is that in order for me to have that conversation, I had to be willing to accept my role in this Ponzi scheme. Okay? Now, I didn't commit the Ponzi scheme. This guy's a thief. He's a con. He's a parasite in my mind. Okay? He stole people's well-being. There's people that didn't recover. So it's the challenge is that it would have been easy for me to blame him, and I still do. But if all I did was blame him and not look at my role in it, then I'm not empowered to do anything.
You still
I would still be, we wouldn't have this conversation. And so in order for me to have that conversation with Jeremy, I had to be able to, because he asked the question, how does something like this happen? Well,
Wow.
the only way I could explain it is to say, here's what I did. And I had to separate all the stories that were going in my head, which was interpretations, from what really happened. And what really happened, I look at it and say, if you want to separate your money stories from the facts, the interpretation of the facts, pretend that you're going to watch what happens through a camera lens. But you have earplugs in, so you can't hear the sound. You can't hear the voices in your head. All you're doing is watching a silent movie. That's the facts. The facts were, I gave this guy money. I gave him more money. He gave me a little money back. I gave him more money. And then I never got a dime back. That's the facts. Everything else is an interpretation, and the interpretations are going to hold me back. So once I was willing to accept that I had a role in it, that I ignored my rules, that I ignored the voice in my head, that I did those things, then and only then was I able to, one, heal from it, and two, learn from it. Because now I could look at it and say, oh, so what allowed me to have that role in it? What was it that I did to contribute to it? And how do I make sure that I never do that again? And then how do I make sure that no one else ends up in that situation again? And so it was through that process of saying, I will accept my role. And we've all made bad money decisions. And I still will make bad investments, this and that, but they won't destroy me because of the rules, And so the losses are small, even though I still have them. The gains are big. Okay. That's what we want. And I don't allow it to define me anymore. And I follow rules. There are probably investments that I've pushed away and said, nope, because they didn't satisfy the criteria that I could have probably made $1 billion on, but I want peace of mind.
Yeah.
And so I won't do it. So once I understood that and I accepted my role, then I was empowered to do something different and learn from it and say, okay, I can grow from it. What do I need to learn? Who do I need to have in my world? And what do I need to do differently? And so literally 18 months from losing that money, we not only recovered what was lost, but we tripled it.
Amazing. And you use the principles within the book that you're sharing to do that, which is phenomenal. So can you show us the book? I need to see the book cover because I know you've got a copy.
Yeah.
So good. So Building Your Money Machine is coming out really soon. It'll be out now once the episode hits live. It'll be out. And I'm doing a little competition. So if any of the listeners are listening right now and would love to get a copy of Mel's book, jump to wherever you're listening to this podcast, leave a review, screenshot it, and then email it to me at hello@christinecorcoran.com.au, and I will send a hardcover copy to you so you can get access to all this incredible knowledge. So I just want to finish on one final question.
Yeah.
What was the favorite part of the book? Sorry, what part was your most favorite to write?
So the book is a money book, but it's a life book. It's a bit about money philosophy, money strategy, money mindset, money tactics. But the last part of the book is where I bring it full circle and say, let's talk about legacy. And legacy is not something that I think a lot of people see legacy in a different light than I do. I look at legacy, a lot of people say, I want to leave a legacy. Well, first off, I don't want to have to die to have an impact. Okay? So I don't think legacy is something you just build to give to someone. I actually think legacy is how you live every moment, because when you do that properly, you leave your legacy in someone every time you interact. And so the idea behind having the money machine, the idea behind building the money machine and having that financial freedom is to have a life of choice, so I can control the moments, so I can stack the moments together and say, it's the way I've lived my life. so what, at those last days, at those last moments, when you sit back and say, all right, I want you to be tired, I want you to be sweaty, I want you to be dirty, I want you to be exhausted, I want you to look back at everyone you shared life with and go, I did it my way. I didn't leave anything on the field, and I'm good to go. And the gift that you created, that's when you give it back, because you don't take it with you and you say, it's your turn now. Take it the next go. And I think that's when we start to live that way. We start to see things that way. We are much more intentional because we're giving the moments the reverence they deserve. And if there's a lesson that I learned from the cancer, it is that as much as they told us growing up, your time is limited here on earth, you don't believe it until mortality smacks you in the forehead and you go, oh, they were serious, you know? And so I look at it and go, I'm going to live every moment fully. And I'm going to do it and make sure that I'm intentional and make sure that as many of my moments are done by choice and not by demand. And when I do that, I know that I'm living my legacy each and every moment. And those that I touch, those I interact with, they're part of the legacy. And it's not something I leave behind. It's something that I create in the moment.
Amazing, Mel. Thank you so much for leaving that with us and impacting us in such a beautiful way. It will absolutely stay with us, I'm sure. And I'm absolutely so excited to get a copy of my book. I cannot wait for it to hit my mailbox. So thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom today. I really appreciate it.
Oh my God, thanks for having me. There was a fun conversation, and I hope that it helps, and I hope that we can get people to see the light for living their life fully and living their legacy daily and being free.
100%. Thanks again.